Pleased to welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show, Troy Aikman. How are you, Troy?
Hey, Rich, I'm doing good. Thank you.
I'm thrilled to have you here. So the Chris Borland retirement, how did that sit with you, Troy?
I really didn't know what to make of it. Knowing exactly what his history had been, I know he was terrific last year, was impressive coming into the league, and then got his opportunity to play and did a heck of a job. It sounded like I heard last night that he had actually considered not even starting his NFL career, that he had thought about giving up football, following college. So, how much of this is really related to head injuries and his concern there? How much of it is related to, him just wanting to maybe get on with other parts of his life? I really don't know. I've not met Chris, but I know it's always hard to make that decision if you are in love with the game and giving something up that you've been doing for a really long time and looking far enough ahead to your future is something that very few guys are capable of doing or are able to do. So from that standpoint, I applaud him.
Troy Aikman, Fox Sports, joining me here on the program. Well, you're part of the paparazzi now in the media, or at least, you're in television. Let's put it that way. We in the paparazzi, talking about this every single day, are looking for a greater meaning here, Troy, that this is either a sign that the NFL will have an issue keeping young players to play the game or getting young players to play the game. Do you see this potentially as that, Troy?
Well, I think that, what I've heard in a recent report is that concussions are down across the board in our sport, which is very positive news. I don't, when the last time that, I don't know when the last time there was a decrease in head injuries. So I think maybe some of the steps that are being taken, not only at the NFL level, but at all levels, is paying dividends. Whether or not, that ultimately is enough to sway moms and dads in letting their young boys play the sport, I don't know. Numbers are down in terms of participation at the grassroots level, and I think that's the biggest concern for all of us is what does this sport look like 10, 15, 20 years from now if participation continues to decline at the rate that it has. Anytime there is a player, and not even necessarily a prominent player, with regards to Chris Borland, it certainly brings up a lot of attention to the dangers and the risks of our sport. Nothing new, but I think the game is certainly safer than it's ever been. But I think that the reports that have come out and whatever long-term possible effects a player could have from repetitive head injury is certainly a concern, and I think it's going to take some time to continue to study it, see what's happening with a number of players, and then with the changes that have been made, they've been made so recently, just in the last, few years, what does that look like more importantly as we look at players who have played under these existing rules, for the next 10 or 15 years.
Well, it just seemed that the risk that's assumed by players to lace them up at any level, obviously, but certainly at the National Football League level, Troy, it seemed that the risk that a player assumes was at the top of Chris Borland's mind. And I'm wondering, does an NFL player just ignore that risk when you're playing? Do you put it aside and then revisit it later on? What were you like when you played in regards to having the risk be at a conscious level for you?
Yeah, there was no real information for me to look at. There was no determination at that time that head injury created any long-term effects. And I was never advised by a doctor that I should get out of the game. But I think we all recognize that, whether it's broken bones, torn up knees, whatever it might be with regards to those types of injuries, we all knew, and they all know now that there is a price to pay. And I think that, all of us said, oh, okay, well, hey, if going out and getting a chance to do something that you really love, if that means that you're not going to walk particularly well when you're in your 50s or 60s, then I think, most players were willing to accept those risks and just say, hey, that's just a part of it. But when you start talking about the quality of life with regards to, are you able to remember things? Are you able to function mentally? I think that's entirely different. And so these players now, they have a lot more information for them to dissect and determine whether or not the risks are worth the reward.
What about you? Do you wake up and sometimes feel something that you think might be related to your playing days? How about you, Troy Aikman?
You know, I really don't, Rich. I've always said I've been real fortunate. I certainly am aware of some former players and former teammates even that have had some issues because of the concussions and the head injuries that they suffered. There's a place here in Dallas called Brain Health that I went last year, and I went through a series of tests, and not that I had anything that concerned me, but I just thought, hey, it's right here in my backyard. I'll see kind of where I'm at. And it took a couple of weeks for them to pull all the information together after I tested, and when I went back, they were quite impressed. Surprisingly, I guess they said that I tested, amongst some of the highest that have ever come through. So that made me feel good. It was certainly a sense of relief, but doing the job that I have in broadcasting, I think that keeps me active mentally, but I haven't had any issues that have been cause for concern, and I hope that continues. But I know some other players have been less fortunate, and even beyond the head injuries that I had, the only significant injury that I really had while I played was a back injury where I had surgery, and that was actually what caused me to retire. It wasn't the head injuries; it was my back issues. I was having to take shots throughout my last season to get out onto the field and try to play. And even that has healed up. So I have no physical ailments. I'm very active, and then mentally I haven't noticed anything either. So I've been real fortunate.
Troy Aikman joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. What did you make of the DeMarco Murray signing by the Eagles, Troy? What do you think about that?
I think what the Eagles have done has been, it's been real interesting to watch. I can only imagine if you're an Eagles fan and seeing all that's gone on, and where they're going to be going into next year. The DeMarco Murray signing by the Eagles was outstanding, in my opinion. I'm a huge fan of DeMarco's. Was prior to last year. He's got great toughness. He's a serious guy. He really places extreme importance on the game of football. He wanted to stay in Dallas, Rich, and I think he was willing to maybe take a little less money to stay here, but I think the guarantees that the Eagles offered, and even a couple of other teams for that matter, surpassed what Dallas was doing. And I think Dallas just decided that as much as they'd like to keep DeMarco Murray, I know they wanted to keep him, but they had established a ceiling on a price, and once it got beyond that, they were going to stick to their plan. And so some have been critical of the Cowboys for that, and then on the other hand, some have applauded them for it because they've shown some constraint, and it's something that they've really not done a good job of showing in previous years.
Well, a lot of people are saying that Steven's running the show there and is the one that is telling Dad, maybe we should tighten the belt here, there, and that's what's happening there. Troy?
Well, I would say that don't kid yourself. Jerry's always running the show. He's always the master.
Fantastic.
He's always the master of ceremonies, but I do think that Steve, and not just this offseason, I think it's gone on for the last 3 or 4 years that he has been able to influence some of the things that have been occurring. And we all know that Steven's going to be running this team at some point in time, and I think he does have his hand in a lot of the decisions that have been made.
Troy, before I let you go, Sam Bradford, now the guy there in Philadelphia. You'll be calling a lot of Eagles games, I'm sure, in late windows on Fox based on, their popularity and how many moves have been made. So many people still can't wrap their arms around the idea that Chip Kelly's first hand-picked quarterback in his 2+ seasons in Philadelphia is this young man who's had injuries to his knee the last 2 seasons. How does he fit in your concept with the Chip Kelly concept? How does he fit there?
Well, it's really a matter of whether or not he can stay healthy. I think he's agile enough to run that offense. What I saw of Sam coming out of college, we did not have one Rams game since he's joined the team, so I haven't even had a chance to watch him play in person. And then, of course, those that have had their games, a lot of times he hasn't even been on the field. But I'm interested in seeing how he does in this system. I love the offense. I really like Chip Kelly's system. He's a really bright guy, he being Chip Kelly. And for him to have more say in the personnel this offseason and make the moves that he's made, including that trade for Sam Bradford, I'm anxious to see how they do and how he plays within this system. And I've got enough confidence in Chip that if he sees some things in Sam that he really likes, then I like the move too until proven otherwise. It's just a matter of whether or not he can stay on the field.
Troy, thanks again for taking the time, man.
You bet, Rich.
I look forward to the next time. Don't be a stranger, okay, Troy?
All right, my man.
Okay, thanks. That's Troy Aikman. You bet. That's Troy Aikman of Fox Sports.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.